Director Sam Raimi's 2007 would-be epic Spider-Man 3 is something of a cultural punching bag. People love to hate it, and there's a definitive reason for this scorn. The villains. Not characters themselves, but the fact there's just too many of them. Spider-Man 3 isn't alone in this, though. This is a common problem for superhero films. X-Men 3 has Magneto, Juggernaut, and the US military, Angel's dad, and an army of no-name mutants. Batman and Robin have Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, and Bane. And even The Dark Knight Rises features Bane, Deputy Commissioner Foley, and Talia al Ghul. There's a virtual sea of films that spawn franchises, and one of the major issues with the later installments is the fact that the casts just balloon in order to include way too many characters. But why is the film so derided? Why did Spider-Man 3 fail so spectacularly when its predecessors, made by the exact same people, were so successful they basically kicked off the superhero film craze that we're still living in? Think about it. Spider-Man 3 and X-Men are the launching pads that produced the MCU. But that success was cut short after only a few short years. The dizzying heights of Spider-Man and its sequel Spider-Man 2, commonly thought as one of the best superhero films ever produced, were tragically cut short when Sony Pictures interfered with the creative process and strong-armed the director of the multi-billion-dollar franchise into using not just one, not two, but 3 villains. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Villains, and how too much of a good thing is almost mathematically provable as a bad thing. Most films, and definitely superhero films, follow a very rigid structure, directly descended from Joseph Campbell's ideals of the hero with 1,000 faces. This famous book that Campbell compiles is a deep analysis of myths, legends, and stories that every culture across the globe has told themselves. It's an analysis that breaks down these tales into their individual components and attempts to learn why people from as early as the Stone Age liked their stories structured the same way we like them now, thousands of years later. There's always some sort of inciting incident that acts as a call to adventure. The main character must travel outside their comfort zone, fight for a higher ideal or calling, and learn some profound lesson. Then, at the end of the story, they will return back to their place of origin as a changed and evolved person. Every story from Star Wars to Jason and the Argonauts shares these common elements. They are the formulating building blocks of civilization practically. They're the parcels of information that allows us to understand the world around us. Because this structure is so hardwired into narratives, and the fact that superhero films are almost more commodities than escapist fantasies now, they have a series of boxes that need to be checked. Much like stories from Campbell's The Hero's Journey, you have to have your origin sequence, you have to have your alpha costume and your beta costume, you have to have fight scenes that showcase the character's newfound otherworldly abilities, and most important of all, you need a good villain. Any villain worth their salt is a reflection of the hero. They expose the audience to a deeper truth about the protagonist, push them in new ways, or expose the side of them they're desperately attempting to hide. If you're looking at superheroes and their paired villains, Red Skull showcases what could happen if Captain America became too authoritarian and too committed to country over his ideals. Loki is an exploration of the duplicitousness of man's basic instincts, contracted against Thor's inherent heroism. And Mandarin's magic serves as a metaphor for a return to the old ways, and how Iron Man's constant striving for progress and the new is always met with people yearning for the status quo of yore. In terms of the first Spider-Man, Norman Osborn is a rich tycoon businessman who has everything that Peter Parker lacks. Power, wealth, societal influence, they all come naturally to him. He's also filled with guile and is constantly attempting to play the angles, while Peter Parker is pure of heart. When he eventually falters, which causes the death of Uncle Ben, it compels him to swear he'll never embrace that side of him ever again. He's a good person through and through, and this sets the character up for a lifetime of attempting to help people, to atone for this mistake. Norman Osborn, as a villain, constantly pushes and tempts Peter Parker. They are polar opposites, reflections of each other. And you understand this dichotomy and relationship because of the time and energy Raimi and company put into the construction of the first Spider-Man film, which then leads us to Spider-Man 3. Why do people hate it so much? Why is it such a laughing stock? I'm sure you can guess, but the simple answer is that Raimi didn't want Venom in the movie. Sony was convinced that the character of Eddie Brock, aka Venom, had a huge commercial and merchandise potential for them. They knew that the character, who originated in the 80s, co-created by Todd McFarlane and David Michelinie, had a massive following among hardcore Spider-Man fans. Raimi, on the other hand, found the character to be blunt, one note, and not thematically in the line of the Spidey villains he loved. Raimi was a 60s and 70s Spider-Man fan, not much for the bombastic 80s and 90s work. But the real answer is that there are just too many villains in the film. In this film, you have Harry Osborn, Venom, and the Sandman. To make things even more confusing, there's no hierarchy in this roguish gallery. It's not as though there's a master criminal employing these other two characters as foot soldiers. Each one of them ostensibly has an arc that is equivalent to a main arc of a villain in a film, with only a third of real estate in runtime. Harry Osborn is supposed to be a dark reflection of what Peter Parker could become. He is a boy the same age as Peter, however, he was raised in a decidedly different socioeconomic bracket, which has warped him and caused him to be jealous, filled with anger, and covetous. It also doesn't help that most of the film they gave Harry amnesia and a horrible sky snowboarding costume. It's pretty bad, no matter how you spin it. The film also gives Sandman a healthy retroactive continuity-based origin. It says that he was a part of the robbery that ultimately caused Uncle Ben's death. Each of the two arcs could be a movie in and of themselves, but then to top it all off, you have the story of Eddie Brock, Peter Parker's competitive co-worker, who is given an alien symbiote costume that grants him powers to rival Spider-Man. To boil it down even more, Harry Osborn is a dark reflection of Peter Parker, Eddie Brock is a dark reflection of Peter Parker, and Sandman is intended to be a character that would showcase Peter Parker's greatest mistake. You can see that structurally, not only are these three characters not working in tandem literally, but their arcs don't complement each other either. They're not exposing new sides of the character that we're following, and they're also not all thin slices of the same thematic idea. It's very apparent why the film has this many villains, but it's still frustrating. Harry is there because after the revelation that he knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2, the creative team couldn't walk that back. So his storyline had to come to the forefront. Sam Raimi is a big fan of Ditko-era Spider-Man comics and obviously wanted to make a Sandman movie. And Venom, well, that's all Sony. As outlined above, when you have these conflicting creative visions, your film just ends up being a garbled mess. The climax of the film, featuring Sandman, Venom, Spider-Man, the Green Goblin, is supposed to feel like an epic showdown, when all the plot threads we've been following come together and crescendo into a grand finale. What we actually got was,
I should never have hurt you. Said those things.
None of that matters, Peter.
just one cringy forced emotional scene after the next. None of the arcs work properly because they don't get developed enough, because there literally isn't enough time. There's way too many characters at the climax of the film. Could this film have worked if Green Goblin was not positioned as a Harry redemption story, and was instead a Harry using Sandman and Venom as proxies, trying to tear down his former friend emotionally and physically? Could the film have worked if we forgot about Venom altogether, saved him for another time? Yes, absolutely. But that's not the direction the film went in, and what we're left with is a prime example of how not to have multiple villains. Okay, that's it for today's episode of Nerdstalgic. If you enjoyed it, press that like button down below, and if you haven't done so yet, please also hit that subscribe button, and hopefully, we'll see you all for our next video.